So I guess it's that time again. What we have here today is another drop bar conversion from a 700C dad bike, the Gary Fisher AlFresco. So the Gary Fisher AlFresco is a 700C wheeled hybrid or cross bike, they sometimes used to call them, which I think they meant like crossover. It came with, as I recall, grip shift shifters and Shimano Alivio and STX parts. To be perfectly fair, I did this conversion kind of a while ago, so I don't 100% remember exactly how it was spec'd, but the hubs on this thing are Shimano Alivio, and I believe they're the ones that came with it. The front and rear derailleur are Shimano STX. It is a 3x7 speed drivetrain. And the crankset is 3646 chainrings on an old Bontrager crankset. If I remember correctly, the brake levers were diacomps and the shifters were grip shift SRT 400s, which may or may not mean anything to you. The frame itself is true temper ox-butted chromoly, which is always a good thing. Designed in California, which basically means it was made in Taiwan, probably, although it may have come from the Fisher facility in Waterloo, Wisconsin. This particular frame is a 17-inch. And it's a pretty good fit for me, although I might have been able to go with the 19-inch. I'm roughly the height that Tom Cruise tells people he is. As you can see, front derailleurs, Shimano STX. Rear derailleurs, still Shimano STX. I did reuse the wheels, and the way I was able to do that, besides just putting a double crankset on there instead of a triple, was by going ahead and using Sensah R7 shifters, which are 2x7 compatible. And these shifters really have excellent light action shifting. The shape of them is modeled after the Shimano shifters, but the shifting action actually mirrors the shifting action of the SRAM shifter brake levers. And instead of having a separate split lever there that does the shifting compared to the brake lever, the whole brake lever shifts with a short shift to go one direction and then a longer shift to shift back the other direction. Ergonomically, I really think these things are excellent, and there's not really a comparable 2x7 option out there, so I think these shifter brake levers really fill a niche, and they work great. I really dig them. And that is one of the nice things about this build, is that I didn't have to change the wheels or put a different free hub body on the rear wheel, because I was able to stick with a 7-speed option on the rear and still be able to use modern shifter brake levers, which is really a cool option. Shimano, I think, came through for 8 speeds that way with Claris, but did not do a 7-speed option with a really nice modern shaped shifter brake lever. I'm just gonna say that I love this frame. I love a good butted chromoly steel frame, and The geometry is kind of that classic geometry for a good old dad bike, but in true Fisher fashion, it does seem to be pretty short in the head tube area, and surprisingly it has excellent tire clearance. I'm running 700 by 35 Schwalbe CX comps, which are pretty good all-around tire for what I use it for, but the frame has kind of gobs of clearance there. I mean, it's no trouble for me to run these crummy old fenders, which could be improved, but you can see there's plenty of extra clearance down there in the chainstay area. And same with up here at the fork, around the sides, and certainly if I lost the fenders I could go with a significantly bigger tire. Gary Fisher was thinking ahead. So I didn't use the stem that it came with, but I did get a different Trek System 1 stem, or System something anyway, and I used the Uno handlebar, compact handlebar, to get that short and shallow handlebar shape, but with a 25.4 clamp diameter. So I was able to go ahead and use it with the regular quill stem. It's got mounting points down here by the dropouts for both a fender and a rack, and rack mounting point up here as well. Get the camera to focus. I feel like this frame is the correct size for me because I'm not showing a ton of seat post, but it is a good fit for me. And I was able to use the same headset that it came with and the same brakes that it came with, which are a little beat up. They're Shimano STX, but they work pretty well. And the same wheels. The rims are Zach 19s, and I believe that's what it came with, Weinman Zach 19s. There is a mounting point on the fork as well, and you can see that the fork's got a few scratches on it, but overall not bad shape. The paint on this bike, given the age of the bike, I think is pretty good. The saddle is, this is a saddle I had on my light touring and commuting bike for ages, and at some point I was just riding it on RAGBRAI, and it got so hot that the covering was just sort of sticky and peeling off, and that's when I replaced that saddle finally. But it was sitting in my parts bin for a while, and I threw it on here because it is an overly, just sort of generously padded saddle without being a humongous saddle. And I was able to use the same seat post, that kind of set back seat post. Looks kind of like a lot of OEM seat posts back then. The crankset is a triple crankset, but I went ahead and bolted on a 46 and a 36 tooth chainring and left the smallest chainring deleted, and it's kind of a good pedaling gear range, I think, for the kind of running around I do with this bike. I mean, that's what a lot of cyclocross bikes came with, and it seems like it's a good setup. As I was saying, it's a pretty short head tube there, and I've got the stem probably extended as high up as it'll go. I don't need it any taller than that. You can just see the Gary Fisher logo on the head tube's in pretty good shape, and I like how this came together. I like that I was able to reuse a lot of the parts that it originally came with. I probably could have reused the cranks, although if these were Shimano STX cranks, it might have been a case where the chain rings were riveted on and I didn't want to have to deal with that, but mostly these cranks were just sort of set up and ready to go. I find that I reach for this bike when I'm gonna run around with my kid, run errands. It's a really comfortable, easy bike to ride. It's really smooth pedaling. Everything on it works. The shifting is excellent, and I've got very few complaints. And it wasn't a lot of work, honestly, to kind of figure it out. You'd almost think Gary Fisher had this in mind when he designed this bike, like, hey, some goofball might want to put drop bars on it sometime. It does have an inexpensive front rack on it, and I paid, I don't know, probably less than $10 for this on AliExpress. The front strap, if you can see it here, that mounts it to the same place that the fender is mounted to, had to be bent pretty well to get it to actually fit. If I had to guess, I'd say it had to do with the spacing between here, where the rack mounts to the brake posts, and here, where the front strap kind of mounts to this point at the apex of the fork blades. Being different on different bikes, I mean, a lot of forks nowadays are suspension corrected, so that's sort of dimensionally, that distance between those 2 points is usually a little bit longer. And of course, a bike like this would not have come with a suspension corrected fork. What you see is what you get, because people weren't putting suspension forks on dad bikes back then. For pedals, I just used an old set of Shimano 520s. I probably bought these used for about $15 or something. I've got a bunch of them sitting around. And I think the green looks good. I mean, unlike a lot of the paint schemes of that era, it's a one color paint job. It's got a nice metallic sheen to it. I'm sure out here in the woods the lighting is not doing it justice, but it's honestly got like a nice metallic shine to it without being, you know, garish or ostentatious. And being a true temper ox-bodied chromoly frame, it's actually pretty lightweight rig. I would feel very adequately served throwing racks on this and doing some light touring or bags on it, or commuting on it, which I do here and there. It's a fun bike, and I mean, it might be more useful if I throw a rear rack on there. Let me know if you think I should. I don't remember exactly how much I paid for this bike. Probably more than I should have, but overall, I mean, there weren't that many parts that I had to replace. I think I changed the tubes and tires, the crankset and bottom bracket, threw a new chain on there, and new handlebar, stem, and shifter brake levers, which the shifter brake levers, even now after the tariffs, probably running sub $50 shipped. So if you dig around on AliExpress, you can get a great deal on those. And I mean, honestly, if you want to do a drop bar conversion on a 2x7 bike, or change a 3x7 bike to a 2x7 bike, they're perfect shifter brake levers. I can't say enough good things about them. They've been dynamite. For me, the ergonomics of them are perfect. They're just like you know, Shimano Tiagra brake levers as far as the shape goes. And who doesn't need a bike like this? Nice steel frame that you don't have to worry about abusing a little bit. Mechanically very simple, reliable, fun to ride, kind of fun geometry. You can throw it around a little bit. I would take this on, you know, moderate single track and have fun with it too. So I don't really have any major plans to change it up. If anything, I may take these fenders off, which are really very minimalist, kind of easy on-off fenders. And the front one tends to rattle. They've just been around the block and probably should go. I have some good fenders, but I may just put a rear rack on there and not worry about fenders. Or I've got some full coverage Planet Bike fenders in the garage that I could throw on there and have a proper set of fenders. So that is the Gary Fisher AlFresco. Not in its original configuration, but I think looking pretty good and a lot of fun to ride. Still a great quality chromoly steel frame, butted chromoly steel frame after all these years. This probably came out in the mid-90s. And if you can find one used, they're a lot of fun and a great basis for a drop bar conversion if you're into that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this was sort of informative some way or other. Have a good one. But it's only got 7 speeds in the rear. Yeah, I mean, I like this frame, and that's how many were on the wheel. I'm not gonna replace this free hub body if I don't have to. And the shifters on it work awesome. Like, everything just works, you know?